Heat is not then merely a physical element, or a physical aspect of nature, but it is more fundamental. It is a fundamental principle of almost transformation. Right? It is that which transforms, right? From the material to the spiritual, for instance, and so on and so forth, right? So when we say that, when we talk about Agni or heat in this respect, there is the Agni, which is Agni as it is, right? There's also this element of tapas, right? Tapasya, tapas, right? Tapas comes from the word tap, right? So tap is basically when it is kind of scorching, it is kind of heating up something, right? Tap. So tapas is basically the inner fire of self-discipline, you can say, or sadhana, right? And that is very, very important when you talk about the Hindu way of, going towards spiritual kind of, transformation and liberation, even for that matter, right? So in Yajna, I mean, let's first start with the Agni as it is. When we put the ahuti, when we put the oblations into the Agni, the idea is that oblation is being transformed, right, into something which is being offered more directly into the spiritual realm. So it is a material thing transforming to something spiritual. So the mediator of that is basically Agni, right? In the Rig Veda, that's why we start with the devotion to Agni. Right? The first shlok itself, the first kind of very starting of Rig Veda has to do with Agni, right, as such. In the Agni Hotra ritual, for instance, right, when we have specific times when we say that the fire has a transformative aspect on the universe, right? It's a controlling, harmonizing aspect of the universe, and Agni Hotra is basically based on that, essentially, right? And then when Yoga and Rishi Munis, right, they used to have a lot of years of tapasya, right? There are these stories when we hear that one of the rishis was very angry with somebody, right? And with his eyes, with his very gaze, right, he burned somebody to ashes. Right? So that is a very kind of direct way in which the inner tapas, the fire of tapasya, essentially, and sadhana, has been transformed into a more direct kind of application on something which is a negative element. Right? So there you see the metaphorical, the spiritual, and the more empirical way of looking at Agni. Right?